I am here with Jason Wilkerson. And can you just tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I am 49. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. Been investigating for about 24 years. The count is about a little over 600 places now in 24 years, but I've slowed down quite a bit because I'm trying to get retired from work, and then I'll start ramping up more investigation stuff like that in the next few years. So, plus, investigations and haunted places are like the ocean. There's only been 5% of the ocean investigated, so with the places that keep popping up every day, you're never going to see even close to all the haunted places. So you just have to pick and choose which ones you want to go to. So
That's definitely true. So, what got you into the paranormal?
when I was 8 years old, and it goes way back, when I was 8 years old, saw my grandmother standing beside her casket in the funeral home and freaked my mom out when she tried to walk me into the funeral home. And of course, there's the room where the casket would be. And she was like, "I'm going to walk you over here so you can see your grandmother." I said, "I can see her fine." I stopped at the door and I said, "She's standing right next to the casket." Of course, my mom drops my hand, freaks out. I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yes, she's fine. She's standing right there." And that was my first ever experience. And I think over the years, I've had experiences that are not related to family stuff and just kind of kept me into it. So obviously the older I got, the more stuff I got into, and when I could actually go and travel on my own, I just started finding places to go and investigate.
So, are you still able to see spirits and stuff?
I've had a couple of instances. It was been about 8 years ago. I had five family members die in a car crash. And so when we were at the church and I was one of the pallbearers, we were just sitting in church during the sermon or during the wake and everything. And I saw one of my cousins, I guess he's still my cousin, but my cousin's son run up the aisleway next to me. It was like a little blur, just run up the aisleway next to me. Uh, saw a few things. I mean, investigated a school that I go to quite a bit, and it was pitch black. And you go places in the dark, and you still, even though it's pitch black, if you walk through the place enough times, you kind of can just still walk through and know where you're at. And I just
Yeah.
remember walking up to the stairwell, which is only like 3 steps, and I felt like, okay, I didn't take a step to the left because there's a bar that goes down you hold on to. Well, I took a step to the left, and again, it's pitch black, and I see a man glowing bright green standing next to me, which made me freak out, like back up into the concrete wall, hit my head. But I saw a guy just standing next to me, just bright green.
I think I've had something similar to that, but it wasn't green, it was orange, and I was outside, and it was me and my husband, and he's been able to see spirits as a child too, as long as me. And although he tries to block his out
Yeah.
because he's not really like he's had enough of it. And well, me, I have just learned to embrace my gifts because I got scared when I was younger and blocked mine out. But it's like me, it's like, okay, I'm ready, you know? But I had an experience to where it was my neighbors was having this gathering. I don't know what was going on over there at all. I don't talk to anybody out here, but they was having a gathering, and they had left their back truck open, and I saw this orange lady come out of the truck and start walking towards their house. And we took a picture of it, and we caught an orange orb at that exact spot that I had
It's
saw
amazing.
her at. And I never said anything to them because I didn't want to like freak them out or anything, but I still have that picture, and it's amazing.
It's hard to find good pictures. I take a few from here to there. I've got some that are definitely good, but yeah, it's hard to definitely get a good picture of something, especially when you see it.
Yes. I think the best picture I have so far would be when I had went to the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Oh yeah, that's my bucket list location I've never been to yet.
Really?
It's hard.
Well,
It's hard to find 10 people that want to spend $200 a piece to go to a location. So
I would be happy to spend $200 a piece to go to that location.
it's. I mean, I've knew people that's if you, I don't know when you went, but the guy that used to do the tours there, Copperhead's what they call him, Greg Graham. I mean, this guy was so in tune with the spirits there, he could walk down the hallway with a group and tell a spirit to open the door, and it would open up and shut on command.
Oh, I didn't get that tour guide. I got I think her name was Tina. Um but she was a great tour guide. She was really in tune with the spirits as well. Um she was more so of like the children's spirits loved her. Uh she was more so afraid of the dark spirits where I want to go everywhere. So like the more questions I had about the dark ones, she could tell she was standoffish. But I had a great picture taken in one of the doctor's office rooms there. I had caught two pictures, two different figures in the same window, but I had caught a figure in the window and it was like a demonic looking face. And then a second like a second later picture took in, I had caught a full figure anonymously. You could see skin tone. Looks like they're wearing a shirt, hair, everything. And it looks like they're coming out of the window. Now, mind you, this picture was taken on the second or third floor where there was no balconies, nothing. So nobody could have been on that other side of that window.
You have to send those to me, and I'll send you a few of the ones I've got. One's from Waverly Hills, and other ones from a few other places I've been to that were caught on security cam.
I would definitely get that to you. So can you tell us about the first investigation you ever been on, what you experienced or did not experience?
First investigation, believe it or not, when we were talking earlier, is about Waverly Hills because I wanted to, it's Waverly is about an hour from me, so it was the first place that I went to that was outside of like residential where people would call me and want me to come check out stuff. But there's and I didn't even know it at the time. I don't pay a lot of attention to the nurse, and all that stuff because there's obviously plenty of things that went on there that you'll never even know about. Obviously, being a medium, you know that. But was taking pictures at the top of Waverly Hill. Of course, it was kind of getting dark as we were getting ready to go in, and there was nobody in the building because we were all in the parking lot. And I see somebody standing on top of the building. So I take a picture, and I take another picture, and it's gone. So knowing Tina, not at the time, but knowing her for a while now, I asked her later, I said, what was that? And she's like, well, people say there's a nurse that jumps off the top of a building at the same time every night. So it was weird to see somebody stand on top of the building knowing that we were all outside.
Oh, wow. And at that moment, was you like fully like, okay, like the paranormal exists at that point?
Oh, I mean, I've always knew it existed. It was just, I kind of like you. I want to find the dark stuff. I'm not a provoker by any means, but nothing bothers me. And people ask me all the time, like, how do you go to these places and not get freaked out? I said, well, I've seen stuff fly across the room and, everything else. I said, so there's very little that can scare you. I mean, I've been scared a couple of times in the last few years that, I didn't know how the things happened.
Well, my thing is too, is that the reason why I do kind of try to go for the darker side is because my whole thing for my channel is to show that the paranormal exists with as much physical proof as possible.
Yeah.
And knowing that a lot of good spirits or energies, they just don't have as much energy as a bad spirit would have, you could say. And so the activity that there is can it's you can say like it's more believable when you see the bad side, I guess you could say, than it is the good, because you don't really get much with the good than you do the bad.
Yeah, I think that's what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like a manifestation of the TV shows and what they have people believe in these days, that everything's a demon, that anything happens in your house, it's a demon.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of glad there's no shows on TV really outside. I mean, I'm not a Ghost Adventures fan by any means, but I'm kind of glad these TV shows have dissipated because it doesn't matter what they tell you. Everybody thinks it's a demon, and there's so many pop-up little groups that pop up on every corner, and they're all believers that everything's demonic. So
Yeah. And that's another thing too, is that while we do focus on the bad, we also don't just focus on the bad, we focus on the good. So like while my place is haunted and the spirits through the spirit box and EVPs have said that there were skinwalkers and stuff around, which there was Native American history here. Um, I don't just focus on like that. I focus on like the other stuff that happened here. Like there was a woman who was suffocated here by a man. She's dead now, but not alive. That's what I mean. But there's she's there's that spirit, and then there was a man who was stabbed to death by his wife. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on here, and I try to focus on everything so that everybody gets heard. And I also had this one spirit come through recently. His name is Tom. But I didn't know who he was because he was like, I could tell he wasn't from this area.
yeah.
Um, but the more I talked to him, he was giving me like almost like clues, but he wasn't like telling me fully. But I, after doing some research, he told me a Tom and he told me Victoria shot leg. After doing research, I had found out that right down the road across the street from where I live, there's a road called Victoria Road that I never paid attention to. And a man named Tom was killed there, and one of his injuries was his legs, where he
Hmm.
was shot.
You just need
And
somebody to talk to, and he showed up at your house and was like, "Hey, let's talk for a while."
yeah, and I think one of the things too is, sorry, talking about him is getting me like a little shaky. I think he's trying to come in. Um, but I think one of the things too is that the his the people who killed him haven't been caught.
Yeah,
So I think that's what it
that's
is too.
something you've researched as far as any kind of history on it, as far as his.
I haven't gone to the point to where like I'm researching like his family and stuff like that. I just saw the article and said that like if you know any details about what happened here, like it's still, you know, that they're looking for whoever did it, and it hasn't been updated yet, and I don't know the peoples, and where I live, like that stuff's not normal here. Like they don't, so it's not something you can just be like, hey, I know your son or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Is there a Bible Belt in North Carolina?
A what?
A Bible Belt, like the Christians that says stay away, medium, and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and where I live is like a small town Christian town. So but can you tell us more about the places that you've been to?
Believe it or not, I've been to. I'm wearing the shirt now. The Crump Theater, which is a 135-year-old theater. I was helping them do some renovations here a few months ago. It's in Columbus, Indiana. Definitely a great place. The people that took it over are trying to get it back up to date and everything else. As far as it's set vacant for I'd say about 15 years, because I did a convention there back in 2012.
Oh, wow.
A couple of people that have took it over. Jessica Snep, I think that's how you say her name, but um, her and her boyfriend have took it over, and they're fixing it back up and getting it back to where you can investigate. They're having shows there, they're having movies there and stuff like that. So that's the last place I investigated. Of course, when I called her up, I said, "Hey, I was there about 10 years ago doing conventions and ghost hunting and stuff." And so I went up. I was driving up every weekend and helping them do some renovations. And she's like, "You can stay at the house." I was like, "No, I'll sleep here at the theater." And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, it's no big deal. I'll just sleep here." So she couldn't believe I was going to sleep there, by myself in the theater, knowing stuff's going on and hearing stuff and everything else. And in the middle of the night, I was laying on her couch in her office. And I just remember being woken up by something literally just running up in my face, almost like an ice cold draft just run up in my face. And so I've not been lucky enough to see the lady in black that kind of walks around the theater that people have seen walking up and down the stairs. But maybe one of these days. And before that, I was on like a little hiatus. I went to the spent 2 nights at the Conjuring house before all this craziness hit with the new home. So,
That's like my go-to place. I want to go so bad.
well, I hope they get that lady out, and I hope they
Yes.
back going because I'm afraid she's going to burn that place down. I don't know if she just went nuts on her own or the
And
spirit that's taken over her mind or something. I don't know.
and isn't she the one too that like took the original table out and went and put it in Virginia?
She's done all kinds of stuff I can't even keep up with. I mean, I was overseas back in 2020 and was coming back. Of course, COVID was just hitting.
Yeah.
But I messaged Corey, the guy that owned it at the time, Corey Heinzen, and I was like, "Hey, I'm coming back. How much is it to investigate?" He's like, well, "How many people?" I said, "Just by myself." I just on a whim just decided to message him. He was like, "It was $125 for just me," and that was fine. No $600-700 whatever. If you had a group, it was just one person. So I got to spend 2 nights there. There was a group that I kind of met online that came from Michigan and got freaked out so much after 4 hours they wouldn't stay in the house, and they drove back home. Drove 12 hours back home.
Oh wow.
And I was like, I'm sorry, but a place like this, you're going to have to drag me out of the house by my feet for me to leave. I wouldn't leave no matter what happened.
Right. Okay. That's me.
And I mean, that's some of the best EVPs I've ever gotten in my entire life there. And I think the one that scared them so much is there was a man's voice down in the basement that said, "My house, you are free now to go." And they just free. I mean, my EVPs, and I just say this because this is what I specialize in. I don't really show people unless they're class A because I want people to realize, like, I show it from the recorder. Like, I put the recorder on camera, I push the play button, it plays. There's no added in, there's no computer, there's no nothing else. It's the same recorders I've been using for 20 years.
Yes.
Now I find them on eBay and I buy them, and hopefully they're new, but that's the same ones I use. And
I
people's like, "You get something so clear." I'm like, that's just, I try to tell people the way I hear stuff is if I'm investigating, you could be talking to me and I don't hear a word you say because I'm just listening for what's not there.
That's true. And then it's also like one reason too why like I don't like how places are charging $1,000 to go and investigate is because you're charging for 10 people. So then you feel like you have to have that 10 people, you know, to be worth your money. And it's like the more people that's around you, the more talking there is. And it's like at the same time, it's like you're there to investigate. And for me as a medium, I don't like saying that word. Um,
I like it better than psychic, so we'll stick with it.
I like I want to be able to like hear things from afar. I want to be able to hear things up close. And if you're blabbing in my ear, I can't hear what's going on right here. Or if I'm trying to listen here, I'm going to ignore you over here.
I've taught myself my own way of investigating over the years, just because I don't like I do real time investigating, but with an old digital recorder because they make these new real time recorders that you can stop and play back and everything else. My thing is I'm walking down the hallway with a group, and if I hear something, I can stop right there in the middle of the investigation and say, "Hey, let me play this for you and see what you hear." And it saved me thousands and thousands of hours of having to go back because I let it run about 4 seconds over when I hear whatever I hear, and that way I know where to go back to and play it back for people. So
So,
it's an old school taught my way how to do real time recording without having to use those new recorders. So
so is that why you say you credit yourself as a specialist?
yeah, I
Is
mean I wear old wired headphones that I plug into the recorder, and I can hear out of both of them, and I can walk down a hallway and group be asking questions. I mean, I'm not a question ask person. I'm like, you ask and I'll listen to whatever's being said. And so it to me, I think it makes a better investigation because I can stop people and say, "Hey, you asked this question here. Let me play back what the response was."
right. And that's kind of like something that I do as well. I don't have like the fancy like the recorders and stuff, but I do have this wristwatch for EVPs that you can have record and stop and go back and listen to as well. What other evidence do you use? And is EVPs your main focus as evidence?
Yeah. I mean, I'll do some video every once in a while. I found those little cat balls to be very fun. Used them in the ancient Ram Inn over in England a couple of years ago when I investigated over there. Never seen them before. And the group I met online when I was over there, we went to an ancient Ram Inn, which is almost 1,000 years old. And it was just crazy to see him laying across the room and just start blinking, knowing obviously there was nobody there.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to use the spirit box, the SB7. That's great. Love that. Getting ready to have Jeff Fent build me I don't even know what he calls his boxes, but they're like the holy grail. It's not like the Zach Bagans Geo boxes and crap they sell for thousands of dollars, but he's a master when it comes to making spirit boxes. And he uses, in my opinion, old little portable radios, like the little like you used to put on your arm and run around with from like the 80s as his device that runs this box. So I'm going to buy one of those. That's one of the things I used at the Conjuring house. It was so good. And so I found him online and I'm going to have him build a box for me. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I've been telling my husband, I said that I've been wanting to build a spirit box because the spirit box thing that I had bought, I just don't understand it. Like the whole radio thing, like I don't get it. Like it's like sometimes it's like, okay, I can see that, but it's like other times it's like, okay, this is just the radio playing.
I've used mine for quite a few years, and actually went back and investigated a place that we investigated back in, I want to say 2000, maybe 13 or something. But it came out a full sentence on a question I asked, and I've never had a full sentence come out. And I was asking because it was a house in St. Joseph, Missouri, we got a call about, and it's a residence. But when I went back, the owner that owns it now turned into a bed and breakfast, would not let me investigate. And it didn't make any sense to me because there's a carriage house right next to it, which is fine. I said, I'll stay here. But he didn't want me to stay in the house at all. He said, well, I overbooked, so I'm going to have to have you stay in the carriage house. Well, I looked outside that night. There wasn't a car anywhere. He just didn't want me to stay in the house. And the next day, he's like, I know there's spirits here, and I just don't want you to bother them because they're fine being here, which didn't make any sense to me. If you know there's spirits there, why is it an issue to investigate? And so we had this big, long talk. So the next night in the carriage house, I was asking the spirits, because spirits obviously can travel. I said, why is it, that this guy that owns this place does not want me to come and investigate, or at least try to talk to spirits that are here now? And I got a full sentence response on the SB7 that says, I don't think he got the answer he was looking for. Full sentence. And I've freaked because I've never heard something come through so like a full sentence come out. So it was amazing to actually, to me, a spirit actually responded to me with a full sentence on my question.
I think so. I've been having this thing to where, and it could be just that, just because I'm spiritually in tuned or whatever, but I record with just a regular like video camera. I have a Sony 4K.
Yep.
And I have this microphone. It's a Rode mic.
Mm-hmm.
That thing. I don't know if it's the setting I have it on, but that thing, it can pick up EVPs clear as day. Now I tell you, like the stuff like that's good too, but if you do want to go back and look what you're recording of your investigation, that microphone is so good. Almost every location that I've been at, I have picked up EVPs with that microphone. Most of the time, for some reason, they're saying my name. It's always it's usually my like biological name, which is Aaliyah. So they'll be like, Aaliyah, help us, or Aaliyah, turn around, Aaliyah, go that way. But
I
I
only had
don't.
that. I've only had that happen twice now that I know of, and one was not even my investigation. There was a group at the school that sent me a message and like, "Hey, we got your name last night." I'm like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, we're walking through the back hallway, and it says, where's Jason? Like, where's Jason?" I'm like, "Seriously?" And they sent it to me. I was floored. I'm
Oh,
just, you kidding me? I mean, I've been to that school I don't know how many times, but it was just crazy that some other group got my voice and it's like, "Here, I'm gonna send it to you."
oh, and the spirits were asking about you.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been going to this school for years. I haven't been in a while, but there's a little girl there that they call Sarah, and the school is Poasttown Elementary in Middletown, Ohio. There's never been anything happen there. The school shut down. I believe it's in I want to say the 80s, but there was two train crashes back in the 30s that happened on. I think it's on the same day, but like 7 years apart. And they used the area at the time. Obviously, no school was there as a triage. So, you'll hear a train still go by and there's, the school kind of ramp up. But as far as the school goes, there's never been anything happen there. The girl that they think that is the main spirit there was a girl that died. She fell over the stairwell, but did not die in the school. She died at home. So the owner kind of gave her the name Sarah over the years. He's lived there for, I don't know, 20 years now. And I'd been investigating this place for 7 or 8 years. And you hear kids laugh and you hear the lockers open and shut and everything else, and you see stuff all the time. But I never got a chance to talk to Sarah. I can walk down the back hallway, which is what they call Sarah's hallway. I'm like, "Hey, Sarah, I'm here to play the game that we play, which is knock on the doors." And you be walking down the hallway, and I tell her, if you knock on the doors 3 times before I get to the end of the hallway, you win. And you be walking down the hallway and you hear knock, knock, knock.
Oh,
But we were there one night with a group and was talking. I said, "Sarah, this is a new group that's not been here. Can you say anything? Can you let them know that you're here?" And a little girl's voice, and I'll send it to you when we get done, said, "I love it here."
do you
And I
mind if
mean,
I put it in?
oh no, it's fine.
Okay.
But I mean, I just broke down because, investigating the place as many times I've been there, stayed the night there, everything else, to hear a spirit come through when you ask and said, "I love it here," was just, it was mind blowing. And then we got downstairs and one of the guys said, "Sarah, how did you fall down the steps?" And you hear a little girl say, "At peace," so clear.
How did you fall down the steps? Oh shit, that's a little girl. That was a little girl.
So it was confirmation, but you were just, I started crying. I get emotional investigation, especially if I hear something that really sticks out. So,
Yes. And are you empathic as well?
I think everybody's an empath in their own way. Um, I don't know. I mean, we investigated Ashmore Estates in Illinois 3 days before the tornado hit it, you know, which was crazy because it was January. It was 18 degrees outside, which
Oh,
there shouldn't be a tornado hitting anywhere in that kind of weather.
no.
We spent 16 hours there. And, 3 days later to see the place get blown apart, knowing that we could have been in there, I mean, just tore me up. I felt bad for the location, but, just knowing that, you kind of wonder how the spirits feel when they're placed that they're, kind of inhabiting for who knows how long, is like, what the heck's happening?
And I've just recently so I had this weird thing to where I had this dream about this house and of a lady standing at the window, and there was a man in the bed. Um but like in my dream I was like playing as the woman, right? So I was like the lady looking out the window. Um and my husband had just started a new job. I was driving him to work, and I look over and there's this house in the middle of the field. I said, Lynn, that looks just like the house of my dream. It was for sale. We were looking for houses at the time. So I said, let's go look at it. It's perfect. What do you mean? Let's go look at it. It's perfect opportunity. So we call and we get to go up there and look inside the house. It was the exact house of my dream. It had like the decorations, everything. Turns out that the ladies, his wife's, sorry, this part always gets a little confusing in my head and my tongue twisters. But his wife's ex husband, or his wife's husband, died in that house.
Okay.
Okay, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Before they were together. But even before that, so even before her husband had died in that house, it turned out that that house was a plantation. Last time I accidentally said planetarium, so I had to make sure I said that word right. But it was a plantation, and unfortunately, the house was it was in really bad shape, and the price that they were asking for was ridiculous. I went home, did a little dowsing rod spirit guide session. Was just asking my spirit guides like silly questions like, am I going to get that house? The weird thing about that is that they said yes and no. So when they said no, I was like, okay, well, if I can't have that house, nobody can. You know. 3 days later, the house burned down.
Yeah, I felt that one coming. I was like, yeah, I know where this is going to.
So I went to the house, walked over there, and took a piece of wood and brick that was left over, and I was like, well, I guess I do have that house. I was like, so they're kind of not wrong.
I have been there. I was figuring you probably had something from it.
Yeah. But I didn't connect the dots until afterwards, but it was
Yeah.
funny.
I've got a similar piece of a similar item that I was told not to bring home by, well, now my ex-wife. Keep that in if you want to. But so we went and investigated in Narrows, Virginia, MacArthur Inn, which is a hotel. Used to be a Civil War hospital. Used to be a nursing home. It's been everything. But while we were there was a guy at the hotel. He said, hey, you should go check out the story in the town over from us, Parisburg. And I said, what's going on there? And they said, back in 1976, a 9-year-old little boy was possessed there. And I'm like, for real? So we went to the next town over. And, this is in 2008, I guess. So 30 something years after. And people are still shook up about it because it's a small town. And they were like, I talked to the police chief, who's now obviously retired. And he said, what I'm going to tell you, I don't care if you believe me or not. He said, when we went to that house, he said, there was bottles spinning on the front porch, shooting off at us as we were walking towards the house. And when we went in the house, everything was bunched up, kind of like when you see the movies where all the furniture's kind of put into a puzzle piece that you couldn't do by yourself,
Yeah.
And they went into the kid's room, and he was levitated 4 feet above the bed.
Oh my
And
God.
they said the only room that wasn't touched was the mother's room where all the Bibles and stuff were. So, and it's very well documented. It's called the Parisburg Poltergeist.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
I've never heard of it.
I wanted to meet the guy. And this is the weirdest thing. He was in jail for solicitation. But when I called the jail, I said, I'd like to come and talk to him. They said, well, there's a 2-week wait. I said, a 2-week wait for what? And they never would tell me, which didn't make any sense to me.
To talk to him?
I don't know what the deal was, but the lady adopted this little boy. She had a son of her own, and stuff started happening in the house. So they thought the house was haunted. So they moved to a house on Bunker Hill. That's where the house was. And so we drove up to it, and what it was a trailer. And it's like the top of the hill where you see 4 houses, but all the mailboxes are at the bottom of the hill. The mailbox for their house was number 143. It was the only mailbox that didn't have a lid on it. I looked down at the tree next to the mailboxes. Their mailbox lid was laying there turned upside down, which automatically made me think of an upside down cross, which was so weird.
Yeah.
So I picked it up and took it home, and everybody's like, man, you need to take that stuff back, like for real. But it was just so weird. It was the only box lid missing, and there it laid upside down against the tree.
Oh man. And it's like at the same time, it's almost like an you just have it's like a feeling like you have to have it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was just like, I'm taking it. I'm sorry. Obviously, they don't care. They obviously know, which house. It wasn't the house. Obviously, it was the little boy, but it was
Yeah.
just so weird for it to be turned upside down like that.
And have you ever gotten to the point where you question yourself about continuing to go to haunted locations?
I don't think I've gotten to the point of going to locations. I think I've kind of distanced myself from conventions and a lot of people in the paranormal because there was a few years, years ago, I had 4,000 friends on Facebook, but the drama that gets into the paranormal of everybody has got to be better than everybody else. And it's just that kind of, if you can tone that out, you can enjoy yourself, but it's just everybody is trying to be famous for this, that, and the other. People ask me all the time, and I know that's one of the questions that you were going to ask is where can people find me? I just post my stuff on my Facebook page because I started this before there was any TV shows, before social media. I'm too old to try to get in this for money or anything else. It's not, to me, it's trying to get evidence. And I think
Yes.
the bad thing is everybody is trying to get views and everything else, and they do it for the wrong reasons. Too many
You're
just faking stuff and wanting to be the next, again, ghost adventure, stuff like that. And that's just not me. I'm trying to find, EVPs at different places I go, and I'm fine with that. And I post them. And if you like them, cool. If you don't, cool. But too
it's
many,
like
there are too many people out there for the wrong reasons, which makes it, a lot of paradrama.
yeah, and luckily I haven't had to experience that yet. The only thing I've experienced so far is just the people, that say like everything that you do is like the devil's stuff just because you're dealing with that, of which of course that's always going to happen, that's always going to come. um so it's nothing to expect there, but luckily I haven't had any drama, but I also haven't had made any friends yet in the community. So I try to keep everything real and as normal. Like everything I do is, when it comes to like my videos and stuff like that, nothing scripted. Like my podcast is a little bit, of course, but investigation wise, nothing scripted. Everything's raw. I don't edit videos like that unless it's the intros or the outros. I've recently, I'm working on my Devil's Tramping Ground video, and I started to do it to where I put subtitles in for what people are saying,
Yeah.
so that it's better for the people who are deaf.
Yeah.
Um, but that's it. I would like to make friends in the paranormal community just because that's not what I had here growing up. Nobody really understood where I came from. But you can definitely tell for the people who are just doing it for the views that, you could tell by the content that they're putting out.
Everything you see on YouTube anymore when it comes to investigations is, this demonic house. And I went to, there's a guy out there, I saw his stuff the other day. They went to a demonic abandoned KFC. I was like, seriously? Oh man. It's just, I don't watch a lot of that stuff, but it is funny to watch sometimes because they think everything that happens is demonic. And that's the funny thing you brought up about people think this is the devil. I'm like, have you ever heard of a prophet? Like, have you ever read the Bible a little bit just to see what a prophet is? I'm like, they're a seer. I don't, you're always going to find that in the paranormal. You're going to find a few people out there that's going to still bring up, oh, that's the devil and that's the devil's work. And it's hard to justify to some people because they just want to argue.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Um, so would you like to tell us about one more location? And then I think we're going to end it in just a few.
Well, I'll tell you about the location in Missouri that we were talking about already.
Okay.
So even though, and then you edit this or whatever you want to do with it, but so I was married, and my ex stepdaughter. I hate to put it in that term, but of course I'm not married anymore.
Of course.
So they knew I ghost hunted when I first met them. So that Narrows Inn in MacArthur, MacArthur Inn in Narrows, Virginia, took my ex stepdaughter, at the time stepdaughter, to this location that we were going to investigate with a group that I knew. And there was a guy there that bought a ticket to investigate, but for some reason had been drinking and decided to make a scene, rip his ticket up in front of everybody and say, I'm not doing this. This is devil and this is demonic, all this stuff. And we thought he just disappeared. Well, he cornered her in a room somewhere and told her, you're too young to be around this. You need to stay away from this. Now she's 13 at the time. And something clicked and she started hearing voices. So she came running to us and was like, look, this guy cornered me and told me, screaming at me and everything else. And ever since this happened, I started hearing these voices. And she's like, I know this is against the Bible. I don't understand what's going on. But she's like, I'm hearing whispers and all kinds of stuff. And there was a person there that I knew that said, hey, let me talk to her for a second. And she come back. She's like, she's got the gift. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, she is like a medium. Like she can see and hear stuff now. And I'm like, what? Because again, it didn't make sense to me because growing up or doing investigating for years, psychics were the thing on TV, call 800 number type stuff. So medium didn't make any sense to me. So she starts talking to the owner. We're looking down the hallway and there's a guy getting arrested in the hallway of this hotel. And she asked me, she says, do you see the man at the end of the hallway? I said, what, the guy getting arrested? She said, no, the guy standing behind him. I'm like, there's nobody standing behind him. She's like, yeah, there's a guy standing right behind him. So the police take this guy out. And I said, well, look, whenever, whatever you're talking about, when they get him out of here, we'll walk down there because I have no idea what you're talking about. So we walked in the hallway, and of course the room is torn up and everything else. And she's like, the guy's in the room there. And I had a cross shirt on. And she's like, he don't like your shirt. And I was like, who don't like my shirt? She said, the guy right there. And again, I'm just seeing nothing. So I walk in the room and I'm standing in the room and I turn around and look at her. And before I can even ask the question, I'm like, where's this guy at? I feel the coldest breeze on the back of my neck. And I said, where's this guy at? And she's like, he's like literally on your back. If he could put his arms around your neck right now, that's where he's at. So she went, and I'm freaking out at this point. So she goes to the owner of the place and she said, there's a guy down here. This is his name. And there was a record of this guy and what he looked like, exactly how she explained to him, that used to be there is one of the nursing home people that had passed away. So we traveled for quite a few years doing that stuff, as far as it's a gift. She would do readings and stuff like that. We did it as donations. Then we would charge, she would charge $20 for whatever amount of time it took. It wasn't like one of these people that go out, give me $50 for 30 minutes. And when I'm done, it's another $50.
Yeah, sometimes connecting with certain spirits can take 30 minutes, at least for me, 30 minutes to an hour to even connect with certain spirits.
So the way we used to find places to investigate, because I've did it numerous times, I'll call a real estate agent if I see a place that looks haunted. I'm like, hey, I want to come check that house out. So we would scroll on historic properties, and I would scroll down the page, and she would point. It's like, call that place. So that's how we ran into the place in St. Joseph, Missouri. We called the real estate agent, and I said, look, this is going to sound weird because we're 13 hours from there.
Yeah.
And I said, my daughter is a medium. I said, and the way we find places and this, that, and she's like, I can't believe you guys called me. She said, this house is definitely haunted. She said, the guy that bought it has lived here 6 years, has never lived in it. It's a 13,000 square foot mansion. And it's still good. It was, at the time, it was gutted out. And she was like, we take pictures in there all the time. They're always black. They never come back. So she talked to him, and we drove up there with our team and another team and a filmmaker, and to investigate this place. So being there 2 days, she saw something inhabit this guy's body. We were talking to him one night, and she started crying. And the guy is a former Roman Catholic priest from London, England, who bought this house sight unseen for $400,000 never lived in it, lives a house down the street. And we were staying at his house with the group and everything. And we were talking to him one night, and she saw something like inhabit his chest. And she looked at me, she's like, we got to go to bed. And he said, you saw it, didn't you? She just looked at him and started tearing up. And we got back to the room, and she's like, there's something that is attached to him. And I was like, I knew that she was freaked out. I knew there was something going on. And of course, I think she was 16 at the time. But, we were supposed to investigate this house the next night. So we went and investigated a few places during the day, come back. And we had a couple of remote viewers from back home that called us and said, look, you guys can't go in this house. Whatever's there is going to attach itself to you and going to follow you back home. And I was like, I didn't drive 13 hours to not investigate. So we went back and forth and argued and everything else. And I was like, look, we'll stay at the house and we'll send the rest of the group there. We got walkie-talkies. We got 8 cameras running. So we'll have everything we need. So this guy goes to the house, throws the keys at the front door. And the lead guy that's investigating said, what are you doing? He said, well, the distance the house key is from the front door will tell me how angry this thing is. And of course, they're all like, this guy's full of crap, He walks in the house. This is all on camera. He's got a cane, and he starts banging the cane on the floor, speaking in Latin. And he said 5 things. And we had it deciphered when we came back home from the diocese. And it said, come forth, Lord of. And before that last word come through the camera, there were screams coming through the camera. Well, the lead investigator calls me on the walkie-talkie and said, dude, the house is shaking like an earthquake. Like literally shaking. He said the walls are banging. It's like the place is moving, because he started banging his cane and started speaking all this Latin. They said the house is literally moving. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, dude, like for real, everything in the house is banging. So, you could tell the guy in the video was not happy to be there. They had shining lights in his eyes with the camera. And he's like, get those off of me. Get those lights out of my face. He walks out the house. I'm like, where are you going? He's like, well, it's not here. It's at the other house with Cassidy, who was my stepdaughter. So he just leaves. And they said as soon as he walked across the threshold of the door, the house just went dead silent, quiet. It's like he could turn it on and off. So he comes back down to the house, and there's like a bunch of people there. There's people that flew in from New Mexico that he knew to see all this stuff. He walks in looking for me and her, and we're right in front of him. He's like, where are they at? I'm like, hello, we're right here in front of you. He didn't even, he was, whatever was attached to him had blocked him out to where he could not see us.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like he was possessed at the time or something.
But he had something that was attached to him. And we didn't know anything about this. Of course, we just went on a whim, So at midnight, after having some discussion, talking to him, hey, we're going to go check out another place right now. We packed up and left. He didn't even know we were leaving. And we drove back to Kansas City, stayed the night, stopped at a Waffle House, talk about what the hell we just ran into. Came back home, called the diocese in St. Joseph, because they had looked this guy up when he first come into town. Like, why would a guy from England move to St. Joseph, Missouri? So he had been part of 134 last rites and 13 exorcisms when he was in England. So he had something bad attached to him. And for about a month, he kept calling me and checking on us. Hey, are you guys okay? I just want to know. And I'm like, dude, the best thing you can do is just stay where you're at and no more contact, because at the time we had no idea what was going on with this guy.
Oh, wow.
But he had that kind of energy to like turn a switch and make a house move.
That's crazy. I'm actually dealing with something right now that had followed. I really don't even think it's me. I think it's my friend's footage. So I had collaborated with her at the Devil's Tramping Ground, and she recorded some footage for me. And one of her footages, I was editing it, and there was a face in the trees. And we were on Discord with each other, so no, she was editing her video and I was editing my video at the time. But we were on Discord video call, so I could see her editing screen as well.
Yeah.
And so I was telling her, I was like, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. She zooms in. I was like, that's a clear as day face looking up at the trees with its mouth wide open. As soon as I said that, I was getting pushed in my chair across the room. I was getting touched all down my back. I was having a panic attack. I was crying. My computer had shut down. It popped up with this huge warning like, you must shut computer down now, or something like that. And it was so weird. I've never seen that ever pop up on my computer, which made the whole thing even worse. And sorry. So my computer shut down. I ended up losing like a bunch of edits that I had did with the subtitles, so I had to restart that, which is why I'm still editing the video. But since then, since I saw that face on the footage, and I was pushed in the chair when that happened, I can definitely tell, like, at least some nights that spirit and that energy from the tramping ground is back here. And like the other night, me and Lynn was asleep, and now this I can't fully recall because I was asleep. I can just give what he said.
Yeah.
But he said he had woke up because he felt something very dark in the room, and he just laid in bed and he was analyzing it. He said that I sat up in the bed and grabbed his hair and started pulling it and growled at him and was growling at him. And then I just let go and laid back down. And when I laid back down, I woke up and I was
Those
like,
are always the worst visions of somebody just sitting up in bed because you've watched so many movies of that happening. You're just like, when's it going to happen? When she's going to levitate in the bed, or she's going to sit up with, and she's dead asleep and something crazy happens.
I've never had, like, when he told me that, that was the first thing too. I was like, that sounds like, I was like, I didn't do that. I was like, I did not grab your hair. I did not sit up. What are you talking about? He was like, you definitely did. And he was like, you don't feel that, the dark energy in the room? I was like, no, I don't feel anything in the room. Like, I thought he was crazy for a second. But at the same time, I had just woke up. Well, then it had caught me because my phone alarm had went off and I didn't have an alarm set. I look at my alarm, it's 3:30. I'm like, okay, so now you're just messing with me because this is just like some joke. Like, it's too late. Sorry. The son just opened the door somehow. What are you doing? You crazy baby? What are you doing?
A few minutes later.
We were asked to do a radio show in Vegas at a convention that we were going to. And to look at the guy that asked us to do the radio show, we got there, we were like, okay, kind of looks like a hippie white guy. Had no idea he grew up on a reservation and he was part Cherokee. You wouldn't even know it looking at him. And the first thing he asked my stepdaughter at the time was like, so, you're a medium, do you see anything around me? And she saw a pack of wolves around him, which we've investigated, and she's talked to 1,000 people over the time we investigated and her doing readings and never picked up on animals. So it was just crazy. Again, and at the time, he hadn't told us he was Native American. She's like, I don't know what this means. She's like, there's a pack of wolves around you. And his wife looked at him like, okay, she's legit. Because I was even like floored. I was like, what the heck are you talking about?
With that all being said, I'm sorry to rush this to the end, but my children are going crazy now. So is there any... Go in there. Sorry. Now my phone. Okay. So, do you want me to post the link to your Facebook in the description?
Yeah, it's fine. Just whenever. And I'll send you a couple EVPs to throw in there too.
Okay, awesome. And with that being said, I thank you for coming and being on this podcast with me.
I appreciate your time and appreciate you asking me, and I hope you have a great night.
And I hope you have a great night too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.